Julia had lived aboard the orbital station Artemis 7 for 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. Not that anyone was counting, certainly not her fellow crew members, who passed her in the corridors with barely a nod, their eyes sliding away as if she were part of the station's grey metallic walls. She was a maintenance engineer, 4th class, the lowest rank on a station where status meant everything. Her quarters were a cramped pod near the waste recycling units. Her meals came from the bottom tier of the food synthesizer, producing bland protein blocks that tasted like regret. And her work, it was the kind that kept the station running but earned no recognition. Crawling through ventilation shafts, repairing faulty gravity panels in forgotten storage bays, and cleaning the biofilters that no one else wanted to touch. Julia had learned not to expect much. Not after her family on Earth had stopped answering her quantum wave calls 2 years ago. Not after her transfer request to a better station had been denied 5 times. Not after the crew had made it abundantly clear that she was invisible, insignificant, unloved. On the morning that everything changed, Julia was doing what she always did, eating her breakfast alone in the far corner of the communal dining hall. The other crew members clustered in their social groups, the navigators with their sharp uniforms and sharper wit, the scientists with their animated discussions about dark matter, the security officers with their easy camaraderie. Julia kept her head down, methodically chewing her protein block and staring at the datapad that displayed her work orders for the day. She didn't notice him approaching until he was standing right beside her table. "Mind if I sit here?" Julia looked up, startled. The man was tall, with warm brown eyes and an easy smile that seemed entirely out of place on Artemis 7, where smiles were currency and rarely spent on people like her. He wore a civilian jumpsuit marked with the insignia of a visiting diplomat, which made his presence beside her even more inexplicable. "There are other tables," Julia managed, gesturing vaguely at the half-empty hall. "I know," he said, and sat down anyway, placing his tray across from hers with the kind of deliberate care one might use when arranging a royal banquet. "I'm Oscar, just arrived yesterday on the transport from Earth." "Julia," she replied quietly, waiting for him to realize his mistake and leave. Diplomats didn't sit with 4th-class maintenance engineers. It simply wasn't done. But Oscar didn't leave. Instead, he began to eat, occasionally glancing around the hall with curiosity. "Quite a station you have here," he said. "I've been to a dozen orbital facilities, but none quite like this one." Julia nodded, unsure what to say. She could feel eyes on them other crew members, noticing the bizarre scene of a high-ranking visitor sitting with the station's least important person. "You know what I find most interesting?" Oscar continued, as if they were old friends catching up. "The way social hierarchies develop in closed systems. On Earth, you can always move to a new city, find new people. But up here," he gestured at the enclosed space around them, "you're stuck with the same faces, the same judgments, every single day. It must be suffocating." Julia's throat tightened. No one had ever acknowledged that before. No one had ever seen it. "I manage," she said. "I'm sure you do more than manage," Oscar replied, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her want to look away but she couldn't. "I pulled up the station's maintenance records last night. Did you know that system failures have decreased by 43% since you came aboard? That's remarkable." She blinked. "How did you? I like to do my homework." He smiled again, and this time Julia noticed how genuine it seemed. "I'm here to evaluate station operations for the United Earth Council. Part of that means understanding who really keeps things running, and from what I can tell, that's you." Julia felt something crack inside her chest, some hard, protective shell she'd built around her heart. "Nobody else thinks so," she whispered. "Nobody else is looking," Oscar said simply. He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his palm. "But I see you, Julia. I see someone who shows up every day, who does work that matters, who perseveres even when no one acknowledges it. That's not just competence, that's strength, that's royalty, in the ways that actually count." Around them, the dining hall had fallen unnaturally quiet. Julia realized that everyone was watching now, witnessing this impossible moment. The invisible girl, being treated like she mattered, like she was worth someone's time, like she was worthy of being seen. "Why?" Julia asked, her voice barely audible. "Why are you being kind to me?" Oscar leaned back in his chair, considering the question. "My grandmother raised me after my parents died in the Mars colony disaster. She was a janitor in a corporate tower on Earth, spent 30 years cleaning offices for executives, never learned her name, but she was the wisest person I ever knew. She taught me that dignity isn't given by others. It's inherent. And that treating someone with respect isn't about what they can do for you, it's about recognizing their humanity. He paused, his expression softening. I sat next to you because I saw someone eating alone who deserved company. Because hierarchy is a choice, and I choose not to participate in systems that diminish people. Because sometimes, the most revolutionary thing you can do is treat someone like they matter, especially when the world has told them they don't. Julia felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. She couldn't remember the last time she'd cried. Thank you, she managed. Don't thank me yet, Oscar said with a grin. I still need someone to show me around this station, someone who knows every tunnel and panel and secret shortcut. I have a feeling the person I need is sitting right here, for the first time in 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. Julia really smiled, and in that moment, surrounded by watching eyes and whispered conversations, she felt something she thought she'd lost forever. She felt seen. She felt valued. She felt, perhaps, a little bit roiled as Oscar continued to talk, sharing stories from Earth and asking her about her work with genuine interest. Julia realized something profound. Love wasn't always romantic. Sometimes it was simply being treated with the dignity you'd been denied. Sometimes it was a stranger sitting beside you and saying, through word and deed, you matter. And sometimes, that was enough to change everything.